Daytona 500 week. The Great American Race is sold out. It's the largest purse in race history. Start of a new season, new points format. It's a new era. Everything feels big about Daytona this year, as it should. I am joined by Ryan Stevens of Win the Race. Ryan, last season we saw a back-to-back Daytona 500 winner. I want to start there. Can William Byron three-peat? It's never been done in the history of the Daytona 500. Denny Hamlin was pretty close recently in 2021. I think he finished fifth in his effort to win three in a row. So I want to start with William Byron. Where does he rank early on among your super speedway rankings?
Yeah, Byron has been great on super speedways in the Gen 7 era. If we look at the 16 race sample of the larger drafting tracks, Daytona and Talladega, his 8 top 10 finishes lead the entire field. And it's not just luck of missing the wrecks here either, as in that same sample, he's got the 7th best average running position. So with Byron, it's been a blend of skill and the avoidance of the carnage that has led to his 2nd best average finish in that sample as well. So just a combo of everything. I think the skill's there. And he finds himself in that position toward the end of these races, like we've seen 2 years in a row, where if the right things happen and the seas part, he's there to take it down. So, yeah, I think he's definitely live.
It's certainly possible to more or less luck into one Daytona 500 victory. It's hard to luck into two, especially two in a row. Now, I mentioned Denny Hamlin a moment ago, almost won 3 in a row just a few years back. Speaking of Denny Hamlin, he was side by side with Austin Cindric for the lead on the final lap last year when a huge crash broke out. Denny has not had good luck in the next-gen era. In 24 next-gen drafting races, I'm including Atlanta in that mix, Hamlin only has 2 top 5 finishes. And at Daytona, in those 8 races, his best finish is 17th. That's it. So Denny's been on a rough streak at this style of track recently, but could he become just the 3rd driver ever to win 4 Daytona 500s? What do you think, Ryan?
It's been a rough stretch, like you said. I mean, to think there's 8 Gen 7 races at Daytona and Denny hasn't even finished top 10 yet, it's kind of surprising. He does have 3 top 10s at Talladega in that same time frame. And like you said, it's been a lot of bad luck, I think. I think there's some underlying metrics that say, things could turn around. Like you said, he's there at the end of the race, up front, just things don't go his way. And on the big drafting tracks in Gen 7, he's ran over 33% of his laps inside the top 10, which is good for 13th best in that time. So, he is running in a much better position than where he's finishing. And he's one of only 13 guys who have run over 10% of their laps inside the top 3. So there is that ceiling there. And like you mentioned, with him running up front and having a chance to win the race. So it can happen. I think he's just got to survive. That's the, unfortunate nature of this style of racing. So I would say he's due, though. Some positive regression could be coming here.
He's due. I like that. Well, we've talked about a Chevy. We've talked about a Toyota. I feel like Team Penske the past few seasons has been the team to beat at the high banks of Daytona. Penske cars combined to lead 125 laps in last year's race. Austin Cindric won at Talladega later in the year. Blaney won the summer race at Daytona. The latest odds I've seen seem to peg Logano and Blaney as the 2 favorites. So what do you think? Is Team Penske the team to beat this week?
Yeah, talking about, the guys who run up front and put themselves in a position to win these races, a percent of running in the top 3, percent of their laps running inside the top 3, they are top 3. Logano, Blaney, Cindric range from 26 to 16% of their laps running inside the top 3 in these races. And that's led to them winning that same sample size, the 16 race sample size. They've won a quarter of those races. Logano hasn't even gotten to victory lane yet either. That's 2 for Cindric and 2 for Blaney. So there's room for improvement there too if Logano can finally survive here. So it's been a rough couple years for him as well. I'm not surprised if any of them are there to win at the end, and I think they're rightful favorites, across sports books or what we do and win the race. They're always scoring high on these super speedways, and that's because they are doing what they're doing. They're out there winning stages, they're running up front, and I think we'll see that again.
Yeah, it's difficult to control a race with this current super speedway package, but Team Penske is the closest team we've seen to being able to do that the past couple of years. A former Team Penske driver, Brad Keselowski, was cleared by doctors and by NASCAR to race this weekend. If Corey LaJoie makes the field, that will be 4 RFK Fords in the race. Every little bit of drafting help helps. Chris Buescher and Keselowski swept the duels at Daytona in 2022. Chris Buescher won the summer race in 2023. Ryan Preece just won the Clash. I saw he won a modified race at New Smyrna. He's red hot. So can RFK Racing break through and win their first 500 since Matt Kenseth?
Fords have been so strong on these drafting tracks, and RFK is a big reason why. We just talked about Penske, RFK next up here. We talked about those drivers running up front. The next driver outside of that Penske three, and the only other one who's ran over 15% of his laps inside the top three is Brad Keselowski. So, hopefully he's healthy enough to kind of do what he always does here, and we can see him draft his way up to the front. When we simulate this race out 100,000 times, win the race, we have RFK winning 16.2% of the time, which is only behind Hendrick and Penske, that we just talked about. So they're right up there. And what might surprise people when they look at our numbers is we have Buescher with the second highest number of wins in these simulations behind only Ryan Blaney. So, and when you look at Buescher's game in these races, there's really no holes. Top 10 in average finish, average running position. His laps, he's running inside the top 10, 5, and 3. And then you add in 2 more experienced veterans like Preece, who was great drafting last year with RFK, and LaJoie, who we know can do this style of race really well. I'm not surprised to see any of them, working together at the end up front with a chance to win.
I asked this last year, so I'll ask it again. Is this the year for Kyle Busch? I hope we're not continuing to jinx him by asking this. We know how badly Brad Keselowski wants to check this race off of his Hall of Fame resume. Kyle Busch, we could say the same. More variables with Busch, though. He's in a contract year. He has a new crew chief. Can you make an argument for Kyle Busch to win on Sunday?
Yeah, I saw him just post a video too of him getting inside somebody and holding his line and winning races. I don't know if that was over last weekend or during the week, whatever he's doing, but I love that he's still out there getting it. And he called himself Rowdy. So I just want to see him back. It would be such a great story for NASCAR if he could get into victory lane this weekend. We have him winning 5.4% of the time. That's 9th best in our simulations for this race. So I think that does give him a pretty decent shot here. In that same 16 race sample we're talking about, all the Daytona and Talladega races in Gen 7, he's got the 5th best average running position in those races. And the 6th best percentage of laps ran inside the top 3 like we're talking about. So, so far this show, we've been talking about all the guys that I do expect to run up front, and Kyle Busch I'd put in that conversation.
Yeah, you're right. He's won a race at Talladega with RCR. He was leading at 500 miles in the Daytona 500 just a couple of years ago, lost in overtime, almost won the summer race. He's been knocking on that door. Ninth most. Okay, I could see him being a top 10 threat this weekend for sure. Who else stands out to you? For me, I like Bubba Wallace as maybe a slightly longer shot. He's got 3 top 5s in his Daytona 500 career, including a 2nd place finish, couple of 2nd place finishes, I believe. He won a dual race last season. Who's someone who maybe is kind of a sneaky pick that you like to maybe actually contend for the win?
I love Bubba, and it's a great pick. I'm going to go with another Toyota here with Chase Briscoe. I think last year's pole sitter here is a little off the radar. They brought speed, obviously. He finished 4th in that race. He won later in the season at Talladega. On the season last year, if we're just looking at last year alone, because that's the year with JGR, ran over 21% of his laps inside the top 5 on the big drafting tracks. There are only 6 drivers who ran a higher percentage of their laps inside the top 5 there. And that's guys that we've talked about. Bubba Wallace, Chris Buescher, the 3 Penske drivers, and the other Penske affiliate of Josh Berry. So all the guys we're talking about running up front, I think Chase Briscoe, his first year with JGR, proves he can do it. And I remember, Truex was never like the huge super speedway guy, but we did have good numbers on him too his last few years in the Gen 7 era with JGR as well. So I think this 19 could be up there and surprise some people on Sunday.
I like that pick. How about an actual long shot pick? It's hard for me to say. I mean, I kind of like Daniel Suarez. We've seen him win at Atlanta. Spire Motorsports showed us something at the Clash. I think it was the summer race last year. Suarez and some of the Spire cars were in that hornet's nest at the end that almost won the race. So, I don't know. Do you have any wild picks that stand out to you?
Yeah, I think we can stick with another positive regression type pick here. Uh, in all 8 Daytona races in the Gen 7 era, there's only two guys who don't have a top 10. It's Denny Hamlin and Todd Gilliland. So I'll go with Todd Gilliland here.
Oh.
He's top 10. He has top 10 finishes 4 out of the 8 races at Talladega, just none at Daytona. And when I look at the underlying metrics, they're pretty much the same. He's running about the same percent of his laps inside the top 10. So I think some positive regression due here for Todd Gilliland, and that's my kind of long shot top 10 pick, maybe top five. I don't know. Can he win? I guess anyone can win on these, but I guess Todd Gilliland's my long shot pick to surprise some people.
That's a good one, yeah, because Front Row has shown the speed that 34 has been to victory lane in the Daytona 500 not all that long ago. Ryan, I'll ask you this real quick. It's Wednesday morning. We've got the pole qualifying, single car qualifying tonight. I want to get your take on this. Last year it was Chase Briscoe surprisingly winning the pole. I think he had Austin Cindric on the front row with him, a lot of fast Fords right behind them. Who's your pick to start on the front row this year?
Yeah, I think in the Gen 7, we've only had speeds in 23, 24, and 25. So we look at 2023, went 1, 2, 3 Hendrick Motorsports. And then the Ford and Toyotas get new body in 2024. It goes 1, 2 Ford. Nothing new really in 2025. It goes Toyota, the Briscoe one, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 Ford. 2026, Chevy gets a new body. I don't know if this will help on a super speedway or not. Who knows? But I think HMS is just too good at this point to not be back in the mix this year. It's got to be a little frustrating to not be in the mix of the pole, the last couple years here. So it's just kind of like it's like its own race within the race to go out there and win a pole at Daytona for the 500. So I don't know. I think they could really step it up, and I think we could see a Hendrick's car in the pole tonight.
It felt like Hendrick had at least one of the front row spots on lock for a decade plus. But what you said there, last time, 2023, they changed the front nose of the car a bit, and they went 1, 2, 3, new body this year. You may be onto something. I like that Hendrick pick if we're basing it off recent trends. What about the open cars? We know Jimmy Johnson is locked into the field automatically. He's the 41st entry. That is all said and done. There are 8 open drivers competing for 4 spots. 2 will lock in single car qualifying. The other 2 will advance through the duels Thursday night. If I'm ranking the 8 based on just raw speed, really looking at tonight, I would go LaJoie in the Roush 99. Then I'd go Heim in the 67 for 23XI Racing. I'd go Chandler Smith in a front row car this year. Then I'd go Justin Allgaier, Alfredo McLeod, Casey Mears, and JJ Yaley. So I guess that would mean LaJoie and Heim qualify in on speed. Do you agree with that, or would you put different drivers at the top of your speed ranking?
No, I think the top 4 you have are correct. And then, probably Alfredo, being the 5th, and then the bottom 3 in any order there, McLeod, Mears, and Yelly. I would say LaJoie would be my top pick. Just, we talked about RFK a lot, and Ford being so good, and his experience in, qualifying and racing in these races. Then Chandler Smith, same thing. I'd go with the front row Ford, probably over 4th Toyota here for 23XI for just qualifying in general on these super speedways. And then I'd have, Allgaier and Heim in any order just after that. So
Okay.
yeah, I would think LaJoie and Smith would be my top 2 picks of all the open cars.
Okay. Yeah, I was back and forth on Heim and Smith because, Front Row Motorsports has been very fast in super speedway qualifying in the past. So I think that's a completely fair pick. We will find out tonight. Again, I think if 23XI, if RFK can get 4th cars in the field, that could be a big deal come Sunday. And of course, you mentioned Justin Allgaier. All eyes will be on Junior Motorsports as they attempt to race their way in to the Daytona 500 for the 2nd consecutive year. Fun fact about Chandler Smith, not so fun fact. He's 0 for 2 in trying to qualify for the Daytona 500. This is the best car he's been in, so hopefully 3rd time is the charm for Chandler. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. Really enjoyed our season preview episode last week. In case folks missed it, they can go check that out. But awesome to talk Daytona. Fans, you can find more of Ryan's great analytical work at wintherace.info. Link is down in the description below. I know, Ryan, you've got some new games this year available to members. Can you tell folks a little more about that?
Yeah, we're hosting the NASCAR one and done. So you'll select one driver each week. You can never pick them again. We'll do NASCAR scoring for it, and we'll drop your low week. So if you have one bad week or just forget to pick 1 week, it won't matter. And we're doing winner take all, $1,000. So it's free to join for any Win the Race member. It'll be a fun game to play. Have the standings on there. We'll be talking, smack in Discord or whatever about the contest all year long. It'll be a lot of fun. So if you are on Win the Race and you're not in the one and done pool, what are you doing? Get in there, hop in. It'll be fun. $1,000 to the winner.
This is your reminder. Also a reminder that Ryan and his friends host The Draft on YouTube live every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to check that out. Ryan Stevens, thanks for being on, man. New year. Really excited to get rolling. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good luck to everybody at Daytona this weekend.